Today I'm going to show you how to take this raw crate and turn it into a custom Christmas crate. These are a nice size, they're about 18 inches long, perfect for filling lots of Christmas treasures in. You can find these crates at your local hardware store or craft store, pretty much anywhere in the world, as well as online. These cost me approximately $11 plus tax. So the first thing I'm going to do is take a look on all sides of my crate, and I'm going to remove any price tags or barcodes that might be found. We don't want to take away from the handmade aspect of this gift, so I just want to make sure there's nothing store related on the wood crate. After that, I'm going to get it ready for sanding. I'm going to use my DeWalt rotary palm sander. It's probably my best friend in my shop. I use it every day. It looks like it's in rough condition, gets lots of love. And I'm going to very lightly just sand with a medium to soft grit sandpaper and get rid of some of the texture that can be found on these raw crates. They're definitely not finished and ready for painting as is. So it's important for me to give them a light sand just to get it ready for the next step. I've cleaned up all my sanding dust and very lightly with a damp cloth taken all of the remaining sanding dust off of my crate so it didn't interfere with my paint job. The next step for me is to choose what color I'd like my Christmas crate to be. Being that these are for the holidays, I've chosen some red, green, very soft gray, and a black. I'm using bare latex paint, but you can use whatever type of paint you have lying around. Chalk paint, latex paint, acrylic paint, all will work the same for this project. I personally really like bare paint from Home Depot, and I'm actually going to turn it into chalk paint right now to show you how I do that. It'll help my colors go a lot further, especially since I have so many orders for Christmas for these crates. To turn my bare paint into chalk paint, I've added a little bit of warm water to my cup, and I have plaster of Paris. You can buy this carton for about $5, and I believe it's 1.5 liters of powder, which will last you quite a long time, and I'm using my bare standard latex paint from Home Depot. So I'm going to add, switch hands here. Going to add a couple tablespoons of plaster of Paris to my warm water, give it a good mix up. And then I'm going to pour in my paint. I'm going to be doing quite a few crates today, so I want to make quite a bit of paint. And then I'm going to stir it up, make sure that it's all mixed up. I'm going to be dry brushing my crate, so I don't want my paint to be super thick or it's not going to spread very easily. You want it basically the same texture and thickness as maybe yogurt. All right, so my paint is ready. I do not want full coverage for my paint, so what I'm doing is applying a little bit of paint to my brush, and I'm just lightly dry brushing all of the slats on my crate. I would like the more rustic look, so I do not want full coverage. I'm using a dollar store brush, $1.50, because these crates are a little bit hard on your brushes, and so if you do have really nice painting brushes, you're going to end up having to throw them away at the end. So buying the kind of throwaway styles of paint brushes are much more effective in this case. And I'm just going to make sure that all sides of my crate are covered and allowing some dry time in between as I rotate my crate. Once you've painted your crate, you want to just check the inside and out and make sure that you don't have any globs or drips coming through onto the back side of the crate. I'm going to let this dry for a bit, do just a little tiny bit more dry brushing on it, and then I'm going to show you the next. Now that I'm done dry brushing my crate, I'm going to give it about a half an hour to dry, and then I'm going to lightly sand the edges with a soft sandpaper. Now that I've designed my stencil on my Cameo, I've sent it to print. It is now currently cutting, and what I'm doing is I'm cutting on contact paper. It looks like a blue grid like this. I buy it in rolls up to 25 feet. It's about $10 or $11 a roll, and it really goes a long way, and I find it much more economical than buying the actual vinyl that you can purchase for your silhouette. Everyone has their personal preference. This is just what I like to do. If you don't have a silhouette, or you don't have a Cricut or some other type of printing machine, you can purchase any types of stencils at your craft store, the dollar store. You can even hand paint your own lettering if you'd like. Because you're going for the rustic look, it really is going to look really good no matter how you do it. Now that my crate's dry, I'm going to go with some 220 soft grit sandpaper and just give the side that I'm going to be applying my stencil or using my paintbrush on a really, really nice fine brush over just to make sure it's extra smooth. So I'm just gonna lightly go over each of the slats. Make sure all my dust is gone. You can use a light damp cloth to get that off. All right, so the next thing I'm gonna do is I printed my stencils, and my stencils are ready for me to take my lettering off. So I showed you already I was using the contact paper. I'm actually going to use the contact paper also for my transfer tape. You can buy transfer tape. These are just rough cut ends, so it saves me some cost, and I really like the way they work. So the first thing I'm going to do is the child's name, and what I'm going to do is I have cut lines on here, and I'm going to use a pin. I like to use a big upholstery pin, but this is what I could find today. And I'm going to take off the parts that I do not want with my stencil here. As you can see, I'm making the word Harper, so I'm taking off the H, leaving all the centers in of all of my letters. Again, you can hand paint this if you want, or use stencils that you can purchase at your craft store. I'm lucky enough to have a Silhouette Cameo machine, and so of course I'm using my stencils from that printer. This is a bit of the tedious part, but the result is definitely worth the work. All right, so now I've got the name Harper all ready to put onto my crate. It's probably easier for me to do it up on its side here. I'm going to separate my contact paper from the plastic backing, and I'm going to apply it to my stencil that I'm going to transfer onto my crate. I usually, because I don't need it super tight, I can just use my hands. I also like to use an old gift card that I've already used and run it over once or twice just to make sure that all the centers of my letters have adhered together. Now I'm going to take the backing off of my original stencil, and you can see more clearly now that I have a name underneath. And I'm going to put it onto my crate. And I'm just gonna eyeball where the lettering goes because I've had lots of practice in it. It's much easier for me. But if you'd like to get out a ruler and measure exactly what ends your lettering are gonna line up to, then I'm going to just push it down. Again, using my gift card or just your hand really firmly. So now I have transfer tape and my stencil, and of course I only want my stencil underneath. So I'm going to take the transfer tape off. I was rushing for my video and I lost a little piece of the bottom of my R here, so I'm going to put that back on. There we go. Okay, so now that my name is on and it's created my stencil that I want, I'm going to use the same Behr paint that I used to paint my crate. And I'm going to use these throwaway makeup sponges. I purchased 25 of these in a pack for $1 at the dollar store. And once I use them for the day, I throw them out. It's perfect. So I'm going to make Harper's name in red. I like to blot a little bit of it off onto a plate, piece of tin foil, just using the bottom of a container right now. You do not want a lot of paint on your sponge. It may take a couple of coats, but less is definitely more in this situation. So now I'm going to go to my stencil and I'm going to lightly up and down blot where my lettering is that I want to fill in on my stencil. You do not want to go side to side. And as you can see, I'm not getting full coverage, but that's okay for the first application. If you use too much paint and apply too much on your first coat, it will bleed underneath your stencil, even if you've pushed it down really firm. So it's definitely better to do light coats and have to do a couple of coats. Okay, so you can wait a minute and then you can already go over with another row. Again, a really light coat. Now, some people wait for their stencils to be completely dry without moving, but in this case, it doesn't really matter, and you just have to quickly pull it up. I like to use my pin to remove the centers of my letters to make sure that my finger doesn't stick any of the paint onto my project. You're gonna find little pieces of vinyl on yourself at some point after projects like this. There you go. So you can see I have nice crisp lines for my name, Harper. And I'm gonna let that part dry. So now I'm gonna do my next row, and my next row is, this is a special delivery for. So I'm gonna use the same piece of transfer tape because it's still sticky enough for me to use it for another row. Once your crate's totally dry and all of your lettering is ready, you can go over just one more time with the fine grit sandpaper if you'd like, and then just maybe give it a little bit more of a rustic look. Then I'm gonna take a shop rag and some of my clear Minwax finishing paste. I use this for furniture, for my signs, use it for all kinds of things. And you're just gonna put a little bit of it on. It's just basically a wax. Just gonna rub a little bit of it on, and I'm just gonna go over my lettering a little bit, give it a finished look. My other rows are not quite dry enough for me to do this yet, but I just wanted to show you how I put it on. It just gives it a little bit of a finished look at the end, and then that way it can always be dusted off later if someone's left it out for the holidays. I'm going to use just some Christmas ribbon or some Christmas jute, and I'm going to add a cute personalized tag.